Hey everyone, today's video we are going over a case study of somebody I've been working with for a little bit of time because there was a lot of layers of pain that they were dealing with in the neck, the mid-back, and specifically the right shoulder blade area. So we'll get into details of that and what we found had worked really well for him. My name is Dr. Dawn. I work at Performance Place Sports Care, just one part of the locally world famous chiropractors here in Costa Mesa, California, and we're just gonna hop right into talking about this case. So this was somebody who had been dealing with this pain for about 3 to 4 years now, had done a lot of self-guided things online, going through different programs, trying different things on YouTube, just checking boxes and not really finding any constant long-term relief. The main complaint was neck and upper back. That area was very limited in range. Anytime moving the neck, it would reproduce discomfort down into the mid-back. And eventually on really, really bad days, what he would call his flare-up days, it would feel like a sharp stabbing pain underneath his shoulder blade. Sometimes the underneath the shoulder blade might even present itself between the spine and the shoulder blade. So kind of like that rhomboid area. This person was feeling always better when just moving and active. If I'm up and moving around, if I'm walking, if I'm strength training, I feel great. As the end of the day comes, it starts to set in a little bit more. As I'm at work, sitting for long periods of time is gonna make it really, really bad. So he's gone from sitting at work to now a standing desk at work, which even that in itself is only changing it a little bit, if any at all. So the things he's tried on his own has been very focused into his mid-back. So working with us, we started with things that really offloaded the neck a little bit more. And there's a lot of structures in the neck that can refer pain down into the low back. So what I would call is wiped away a lot of layers of his chronic pain. And so this last session, we realized it had now just found itself isolated near the shoulder blade, and that's the last thing that we were dealing with. In this journey, he had also on his own gone to go get an MRI of his neck and of his mid-back, and they had found some small disc herniations in his mid-back area, the thoracic spine. And so we really, once we wiped away all those layers like I talked about, we really focused on what the heck to do for his mid-back. So if this sounds like you and this is something you're dealing with, I'm gonna show you a little exercise that worked really, really well for him, and it might work well for you as well. This is something that you guys are a little bit more interested in, and this sounds like you dealing with that like neck and shoulder blade, mid-back going on. We do have a webinar that you can click on. I believe it'll pop up on the screen somewhere. It's a free resource that we dive a little deeper into diagnoses, categories, education about this stuff if you want to take advantage, okay? Also, if you have a thoracic disc issue and you know that yourself, I highly, highly recommend you go work with a professional before trying some of these things on your own. So you got a foam roll. This is what we're going to be using. We're not going to foam roll tissues. We're going to use this as a fulcrum. So if you don't have a foam roll at home, sometimes just rolling up a couple of towels to make it this thickness is also helpful. Okay. So the important thing about this one was we located where it was the most tender in his mid-back. So I always coach people into finding the base of the shoulder blades first, fingers behind the head, hide the face with the elbows. And so we're actually going to roll on our spine for a little bit because I wanted him to identify what spot was the most painful. So he found his little spot, and then I said, wonderful, now roll down off of that. Now we're one level lower from where it's painful, and we are going to let our breath out as we lean back over the foam roll. Pop, pop, crack, crack is what's happening to me. Also happened to him and happens to a lot of people. And we're just gonna kind of work through this here. So I know that people with foam rolls, a lot of times they'll find their tender spots and they'll spend a little bit of extra time in their tender spots. For him specifically, I said, find your tender spot and then back off of it a bit. That way we can get segments above and below the tender spots to just move and feel a little bit better. Another thing I want to bring your attention to is what's happening at my front ribs here. Okay, a lot of times when people do this, they're just gonna let them fly up to the ceiling and you're gonna feel like you got tons of range, okay? We wanna make sure that those ribs stay stacked into our front pockets. That's gonna limit how far you can go, which means now all the movement's just coming from where we want it to. So we tried 10 reps below the segment that was painful. Then we rolled above the area that was the most painful and worked through that. as well. Keeping the ribs stacked, 10 reps there. And then we tested again afterwards, which I believe we were testing his rotation through his mid-back and a lot of his neck range of motion to see if it changed anything into his shoulder blade area, and it did significantly. So we definitely paired more challenging exercise with that, some strength training things that I wanted him to incorporate with this mobility exercise, and he's significantly better now that the last time that we met. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Thoracic discs can be a little bit complicated. Sometimes dealing with them on your own is really, really hard. And also too, a lot of times stuff in the mid-back, we gotta look up at the neck, see what the heck's going on up at the neck as well. Because typically where pain is at is not the actual problem area. There's something else that might be contributing. So you're welcome to reach out to us virtually or in person. We can help guide you down the right path if that's something you're interested in.